Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I am your host, Scott Brady, and I am here with my co-host, Matt Scott. And you just got back from Baja.
Yeah, like 3 weeks down in Baja.
That's amazing.
In my new Jeep Gladiator. Well, it's not necessarily new anymore.
It isn't.
Hit 15,000 miles on it.
That's right.
But we're talking about building a Jeep Gladiator today.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about Gladiator. We're going to talk about which model to purchase. What are some of the first things that you should do to modify it? Additional accessories around camping and overlanding and general suspension. I think we're going to talk about all those important topics. And it's certainly timely because the vehicle is incredibly popular. And now there's enough of them on the road that people are starting to modify them, not just the big aftermarket companies that were able to get some of the early ones. But you actually got one of the very first Gladiators off the line. Wasn't it a special package or something?
So it was actually one of the Gladiators that was pre-spec'd. So the dealers said, something along the lines of, yes, give me the Gladiator. We're allocated a certain amount before the specifications were announced. So mine has basically the options it has are, yes, it has pretty much everything. It was prior to the trail cam being announced. But yeah, so mine's probably within the first, few hundred VINs. Normally that kind of means, alarm bells go off for reliability and things like that, but zero issues. I love this.
It's been really good for you. And I would say that your Gladiator has been probably between yours and Clay's Odin Gladiator, some of the two better traveled Gladiators in the country.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, like I said, 15,000 miles on mine. I got it, 2 days before Overland Expo. And I don't drive it every day. It's a vehicle that we've invested some money into in terms of, the AT Overland Summit camper and the lithium batteries and very specific modifications enough that we don't want to drive it every day. Cause that would, kind of just wear the vehicle out prematurely.
It does.
15,000 miles of adventure. We drove it out to Overland Expo after it was kind of first built with the camper and everything. And, just got back from I don't know, what do you want to call it? A traverse or whatever, all the way down Baja, all the way to Cabo, had my tacos down in Cabo and came back. It's been a really good vehicle. I have to say that I'm pleasantly surprised with it. Inside it gets maybe a little bit cramped, in the passenger compartment. And that's when you recognize that it is
still a Jeep,
a Jeep Wrangler, but still more spacious than, let's say, a Defender 130, which was always my kind of, dream car. And then this comes out and
it is the modern equivalent of a Defender 130.
Yeah, and having spent quite a bit of time in a 130, this is
way
at
more
least 1.5 times better.
Yeah,
I mean it's a modern car. It has radar cruise control. It's relatively powerful, I think.
Sure. Especially with that new transmission, I think it made a huge difference.
Yeah, that 8-speed, that's the same 8-speed that BMW uses in almost all of their vehicles. It's in all Bentley products. It's in all Rolls-Royce products. It is a fantastic transmission.
Yeah, you really can feel it. I think it's a great pairing to that 3.6 motor.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to buy one? I mean, you do have vehicle ADD, but
yes, we know that. We do know that I have vehicle ADD.
But what made you decide after all of these years of choosing to have more obscure vehicles?
Yeah.
What made you decide to buy a Jeep, and what made you think that it needed to be the Gladiator? What was the thing that actually made you decide to make that big purchase?
It's a little bit tough. I mean, I had definitely always been interested in the concept of a Jeep pickup truck. I guess when I started with Overland Journal, we had that AEV Brute, and I drive that a little bit. And just the concept of it was just really nice. Like that had in my mind always been a vehicle that had really great proportions. It was purpose built. I think that's the reason why I fell for it so much. It does feel like
a very honest vehicle to me. And that's what I like about the current Wrangler. They've not done anything to it to really screw it up.
Yeah.
And so many car manufacturers have taken long-standing brands, models, and really kind of screwed them up.
Yeah, they've turned them into crossovers or some kind of shared platform thing.
Yeah, isn't the Blazer some? It used to be a solid axle.
It's like some kind of Chevy sedan thing now, or whatever. But
yeah, the Gladiator seems really honest to me, particularly in that sport configuration with the max tow package, max payload. I really like it.
I don't know. I love the thing. It's a very personal vehicle for me, right? I mean, like I've known Mark Allen, who's the head of design for Jeep for quite a while now. I know the guy that helped design the tires, another guy that designed the camper, and it's just personal to me. I think that the Jeep team, I've seen the changes that they've made. I see the feedback that they take from people. I see how they actually listen. I see how they're actually out on the trail. You can't fake driving skill, and when journalists can't get through something, like we just did the Rubicon and Gladiator's stock with the two co-head engineers, Pete and Liz, for the Gladiator, Mark, who's the head of design, and Jim Morrison, not from the Doors, but the CEO now of Jeep. And you can't fake driving skill. And all of those guys are, they're driving manual versions through the hardest obstacles there because they were, probably the only ones that could.
Because most of the journalists couldn't drive manual transmissions.
Surprisingly, but for the journalists that were also on that trip, I'm sorry, but it's true. It's just an honest vehicle. It has great approach angles. The breakover angle's not super great, but that never really bothered me because I knew the moment I saw that way out concept at Easter Jeep Safari that I was going to put it on 37s. 37s fit.
They look perfect.
They fit with a 2-inch factory lift. I mean, I bought the vehicle and then they put the lift kit on it. It was fine. I mean, the rear shocks, absolutely horrible. Like they were so close, they used, basically it was a 2.5-inch Fox shock with factory.
But was it under dampened or was the damping too firm or?
It just had no dampening at all.
So it would just blow through the travel.
Yeah. Just no compression, no rebound. And it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like
that's interesting because the max tow capacity, max payload unit that I drove actually drove really nice.
Yeah.
So the rear shock was
well. This is the aftermarket Mopar thing, I should say, right?
Yeah. So they didn't get the tuning,
spring rate's great, front shock's great. I'm on my second set of rear shocks at this point.
Yeah.
Basically waiting for the aftermarket to kind of continually embrace this vehicle. I have some Kings on order.
So for the Overlander, what would you say is the right model to buy in your opinion?
I really think it's whatever you can afford. Scott, I think you have a lot of points with the Sport with that max tow package. I think now that you can get those wide track Dana 44 axles on every model, outside of the Rubicon, you just have to have that max tow package. And those come with 411s. I don't know if it necessarily really matters anymore. I mean, normally I would say go with the Rubicon because then you get,
there's some advantage. There's definitely some advantages. You end up with locking differentials.
Yeah.
Which I think can be a real advantage. Although I was surprised by how effective the traction control was.
Yeah. You have modern traction control on the JL and JT platform now.
And I think that just installed with that long wheelbase, just putting an air locker in the back could be a pretty good solution.
Yeah.
And then you have the factory high payload number, which is now 1,700 pounds of payload. That's significant. It's more than any other compact pickup on the market, more than the Tacoma, more than the Colorado. It's more than any of the other compact pickups.
And you have half-ton components. The brakes are large. I'll use mine for an example. Large tires. I'm right with people right at gross vehicle weight. And it drives like a normal vehicle. Like the platform was designed with modification in mind. And I think that is the largest thing that separates it from, let's say, a Ranger that, probably rubs with a 33-inch tire, or a Tacoma that if you want to put 35s on, it requires fenders and long travel and this and that. Jeep just kind of knows, like, yeah,
they're really good at it.
Yeah. Like they get it. They understand. I mean, they're at all the events. They know, 35 stock with no lift, 37s with my factory lift. I do not rub at all.
And if I remember, the Gladiator isn't just a stretched JL. They actually brought in the Ram engineers and designed an entirely new chassis specifically for towing capacity and payload. I know that some of my early conversations with Mark Allen is he recognized that this was an opportunity for Jeep to make one of the best, if not the best, mid-sized overland vehicles sold today. And he wanted to make sure that they ticked all the right boxes. And I have to say that is absolutely one of the things I appreciate most about Jeep. I was at SEMA over 10 years ago, and one of the guys who worked for me at the time says, "Hey, this guy just came running up to me down in the South Hall. And he says, you work for Overland Journal?" And he says, "Yeah." And he handed me his card, and I look at the card, and it was Mark Allen, chief designer for Jeep. And Mark was a subscriber to the magazine. Mark is a traveler himself. I remember him telling me about his motorcycle trips down in Costa Rica, and he's truly a traveler himself. And we see that reflected in the vehicle, and that's probably why it feels so honest.
It's just genuine. Practical and good for travel. I mean, you have a lot of right angles with the camper, my AT Summit on the back. I have a lot of vertical walls. That same camper on a Tacoma or Ranger or something like that, you'd kind of have a 15-degree angle or something going down to the bed, which, granted means your bed's a little bit wider, but I think that the space is so much more usable on a Gladiator. We took the back seats out for our Greyhound, and there's a lot of room back there. It's a well thought out vehicle. It's very purposeful. And I think it's important, if you are somebody that, is kind of moving around on vehicles, to support companies that are supporting this industry. And Jeep has been there from the get go, and they listen. I can take this vehicle absolutely everywhere in comfort. I don't know. People always try and, "Oh, well, my vehicle's better, or this is better, or this model's better." Like, I don't really care. Like, I probably won't have this truck in a year anyways, and I'll probably be eating my own words. But, the breadth of capability that this machine has. True. I mean, I hit like 90 mile an hour on a dirt road in Baja in a truck on 37s with a little V6, and it was smooth as could be. I really enjoyed driving the one that we had. We even did some towing with it, connecting some of the bigger trailers that we had. It was really impressive in that regard. I think if you had to own one vehicle that you expected to do everything, technical terrain, daily driving capabilities, you wanted to tow your sailboat up to Lake Powell, whatever that was, and you could only own one car, the Gladiator might be it. Well, yeah. And it's what is the vehicle that everybody wants? They're like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have a solid axle. I don't want it." Okay, well, this does. "I want it with the diesel engine." Well, the diesel engine is coming out. Yeah. Like, "Oh, I want a manual transmission." Well, manual transmission's coming out. "Oh, well, I want lockers." Like, whatever excuse people, like, there's really no excuses to this vehicle. Other than that it's expensive. And I think that's my only dig against the vehicle is it is expensive once you trim it up. Yeah, it is expensive. But you can also, everything that I'm talking about, on mine was over 60. Yeah. But you can get one, in the mid 30s too. High 30s. And everything that I'm saying, it equally applies. It does. You're not going to have the saddle leather interior and the nav and whatever, but who cares? All the important parts are there. All the important parts are there. I mean, I challenge you to take a base Gladiator and a Tacoma or a Ranger and put 35s on them and see how quickly the Tacoma falls apart. Even with the best of the aftermarket, it's going to squeak. It's going to drive like crap. You're still at the limits of the differential diameter and you're blowing CVs. You're spending to make that package reliable, which can be done. I know there's people that have done it, but I don't have that much dedication to a single platform. And I just don't. So it's a very easy vehicle. Mine really isn't that modified. I use factory bumpers. The Mopar bumpers are great. If I want to take the wings off to make it a stubby bumper because I don't know, that looks cool on Instagram, I can do that. Doesn't really do anything for me, but factory winch mount, factory sliders that like I've taken across the Rubicon. I've dragged them across rocks. They're for overlanding. They're all you need. You don't need to put these garage built, hitch steel, super heavy sliders on there. This is a hydroformed piece of steel that's purpose built for the vehicle. And they work really well. I think it's some of the best
factory sliders I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The ones for the Wrangler.
There's always somebody that's like, will always try and break everything. And if you're that guy, cool, go buy some sliders. It's a Jeep. There's a million of them out there. The rear.
I think if we're thinking of it purely from travel perspective, I think that the way that they come in, like your Jeep,
totally
is perfect.
And it has like that rear slider, which is incredibly, incredibly effective. And it will. I've had, the vehicle hung up on it before, and it works.
Have you used a high lift off of the rock sliders yet?
No, I haven't used a high lift in if I should be careful there, but I don't generally carry around boat anchors.
Yeah,
I'm more of a traveler than I am a technical crawler. So I don't even carry one with me anymore.
Well, and the challenge with a high lift off of a Wrangler is the suspension has so much travel.
Yeah. And it's so close to the vehicle.
Reach the limit of the high lift extension before the wheels even come off the ground.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's
bottle jack, right?
Bottle jack, max tracks, whatever I have to do. Changing a wheel's not necessarily a huge thing.
Yeah. You just bring along a piece of thick wood that supports the vehicle in soft conditions.
Yeah. I mean, not that a high lift doesn't have its place.
It certainly does. Yeah. It just depends on the conditions that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about is, from my experience with the vehicle, I think it does benefit from a little bit of suspension lift. And that's because of that breakover.
Oh, yeah.
That's because of that breakover angle. When I was testing the Max tow package vehicle, even in Sedona, trails that I wouldn't normally even notice, I had to take some different lines because of the ability to hit the belly pan. So I think adding an inch or two, maybe 3 inches of suspension lift, and then accompanying that with some 37-inch tall tires seems to really resolve that problem. What are your thoughts on suspension right now? What would be, if you were right now to look at a couple different options, 2 or 3 options for suspension on the Gladiator, what are you leaning towards right now?
The unfortunate reality for overlanders right now is that there really aren't many options.
There's an AEV kit now, finally.
Yeah, but I don't think it's actually out is the problem. Yeah, that is what I will go towards AEV springs. They actually kind of consider payload and things like that. But right now there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of companies that were really quick to repurpose their JK stuff. There's a lot of companies that were really quick to throw whatever out there. There's a lot of cheap stuff on the market for the Gladiator right now. And that's where I'm personally struggling. Having more weight in the back of the vehicle, I need a coil that is, has a proper spring rate for more weight.
Yeah. Old Man Emu has not released new coils yet for the Gladiator.
Icon has some stuff out. Unfortunately, just didn't work out in timing for the Baja trip.
And Icon does a good job.
Icon does a great job. They have a Gladiator. They actually use it. Their big prototype vehicle, I guess, is Clay's, that Expedition Overland Odin. Right. And that's probably about as heavy as you could or should get a Gladiator with their P-Core Patriot campers set up on the back. So unfortunately right now, if you want to buy a Gladiator and you want to lift it, I just say go with the Mopar setup, because you're getting, factory tuned spring rates, spring frequencies, things like that. But if you add any kind of weight in the back, the rear shocks just need to be thrown away. Otherwise they would actually be a really great shock. They're just,
they're under
so horribly valved that it's hard to begin to start why they're so bad. But there will be stuff coming out. I mean, King has shocks coming out. Fox has shocks coming out. Icon has some, adjustable CDCV shocks coming out. So
and then the AEV stuff will
eventually come out,
because they always address payload with their springs.
Yeah, I have to think the next evolution of my truck will probably see maybe an AEV bumper. One of the things I like about their bumpers is that they actually kind of meet the fenders. You can actually reduce a lot of wind noise in the Wrangler, and again increase that approach angle in front of the tire by that AEV bumper. And they're not that much heavier as well. They're very thoughtfully designed.
And you end up with quite a bit of animal strike protection, which is always something that we when we fit a bumper to our vehicles, we're looking at a couple things in mind. We want to be able to fit a winch for self-recovery, particularly when we travel solo, which is what you did in Baja. You traveled all by yourself. And then also the ability to prevent animal strike damage, or even small vehicle impacts when you're traveling. You're in a village and somebody backs up into you. You don't want your airbags to go off and your vehicle to be disabled. So I do like to run a front bumper that does well. It's robust enough to manage those small vehicle impacts, animal strikes, and then of course self-recovery. I'm much less interested in like ultimate technical terrain performance of the bumper, like day after day of abuse. There are certainly applications for that, but I don't tend to seek that out because I'm often so remote that I just simply can't take those kinds of risks every single day with the vehicle. So I do like the idea of the ARB bull bar or the AEV bull bar because it does give a lot more protection. And they both do a great job on theirs.
Yeah. I'm partial to the AEV stuff. I mean, I bought this truck because it is a factory brute. They're just great.
AEV deserves a lot of acknowledgement and respect for the fact that they no doubt they were the proof of concept for Jeep.
If I was in a position back then to buy a brute, I would have. It's just this is just how it worked out. I guess.
They were very, very, very cool vehicles. Now, once you get that little bit of suspension on there, what are your thoughts around tires and wheels right now? Did you change your offset at all?
I did.
What did you go with on the 37s?
I can't remember the exact offset, but I run Method 702s. It's a fairly aggressive offset. I kind of like that. I have a fairly high center of gravity with the camper. I've done my best to keep things low, but a little bit of increased track width isn't necessarily a bad thing. I kept the vehicle in Rubicon spec comes with Falcon tires, your choice of either MTs or ATs, which again is like Jeep listening.
Right.
I mean,
if you live in the desert, get ATs.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a really big fan of the Falcon AT3W. I'm not a rock crawler. I'm not the guy that looks, can I drive up that for the sake of driving up it? There has to be something on the other end for me. So to be able to have a Snow Peak rated tire, that's huge for me. And there's only 2 tires out there, I believe, that have that. And that's the BFG all-terrain KO2 and the Falcons. And in my experience, the Falcons just seem to last a little bit longer. And I like the fact that it's kind of still an OE tire.
OE spec tire.
And the Methods look great. My kind of thing these days is black vehicles with bronze wheels, and the Methods looks
good.
They look really good.
How did the black hold up to all the desert pinstriping in Baja?
It was fine. Like it's pretty good paint. The nice thing with the Wrangler is again, it's purpose built, so you have your fenders that are out, probably at the max from the center of the body, 12 inches.
Yeah.
So you can really kind of, if you're a skilled driver, you can kind of work your way around it. Like I don't have really any pinstriping on the car.
Oh, that's great.
If you think about it, the cab isn't actually that long.
Right.
And I'm used to driving press cars where scratching them is not an option. So,
that's good.
Yeah. The paint quality seems good. I mean, it's had a lot of gas station car washes. And, when I say gas station car wash, I mean, everything is so dirty. I literally take the little squeegee and clean it. I'm just impressed with the build quality on the vehicle. I know a lot of people with Chrysler and with Jeep have quality control concerns, and it's just never been an issue for me. I mean,
how many miles sorted a lot of that out in the last decade?
How many miles have we put on, Jeep press cars?
Hundreds of thousands,
and not a single failure ever. I mean, the only thing is that like the windshields constantly break. Like mine's broken right now, and mine's been broken for 10,000 miles, and I just.
Because
it's just going to happen again,
right. Anytime you take a flat upright piece of glass, but somehow the G-Wagon windows don't get broken. I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah.
So maybe the G-Wagons are just always driving so much slower.
Yeah. Mine's broken.
I had to replace mine recently.
Yeah.
But the Jeeps always need to replace the glass. It seems like.
Yeah. But I think the big thing is the camper on this, it's actually not that modified, stock bumpers, stock winch mount. I put a Warn Xeon winch on there with their Spydura synthetic rope. It's the platinum edition.
Great winch.
Just fantastic. The thing that I actually like, I like that, the remote control kind of setup. It's pretty beefy. It also means that there's no traditional, clutch release on it. So nobody can really mess with it.
That's definitely an advantage. I wish that they had some form of an override.
Yeah.
Of a way to plug in another remote, even as an option. I think that would be nice, because there's times where you forget to charge the remote, or you lose the charge cable, or
definitely
the tide's coming in. As far as performance, though, that winch is unbelievable.
Yeah. And obviously, I put MaxTrax on it. I'm full disclosure, I'm the MaxTrax guy. This truck, the reason I can have these things is because I'm the importer for MaxTrax in the US. So you can see it at all the shows that we're at. I re-geared it to 488s. I think one of the interesting things on the Gladiator, from talking to the engineers that actually designed it, the payload of the vehicle is kind of, limited by two things. One was actually the airflow coming into the engine. That's why the Gladiator has the different mesh behind the grill, is to promote more airflow from the higher wattage fan. And the second is actually the gearing. So one of the reasons why the Sport model has such a higher payload is, one, it has less features on it,
weighs less,
but also it has smaller tires with the 411s. So I actually went to 488s. And I used Dana Spicer gears, so factory gears that went into the Dana axles. I used Dana Spicer diff covers, and it's all just it's a good factory looking package. Everything's kind of salt sprayed to factory specifications. It's not going to rust. I actually, I said it kind of joking around that I won't have this vehicle. I really think this might be the one that I have for a while. Again, especially with that camper on the back. That thing is so well insulated and so well made.
Yeah, let's talk about that AT Overland camper. What made you decide on that model? I know it was one of the first ones available.
It was one of the first ones. Our warehouse is right next to AT. I've had other wedge campers. I think the Go Fast is a great option too. We really wanted to build more of a little sailboat inside. And what the AT Summit offered me was the ability to have things like a dual pane acrylic window. It allowed me to have.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They run the turn.
The turn overland windows. It's a foam core, sandwiched aluminum construction. So it actually has 30 millimeters of insulation built into the walls, and then it's carpeted inside for condensation. It's really easy to put up and down. You can put solar panels on the roof. It has channels for that, for all your wiring. The roof is actually insulated as well. And then the tent fabric actually has 4 layers on it. Now there's a insulation kit that is optional, but literally just pulls out like a jacket liner with Velcro. And that has an outer layer, to kind of prevent that condensation coming from the tent itself. It has thin insulate and then another white interior layer. And it's really quiet inside. I have to say, we sleep really well.
So you don't get a lot of flapping and zipper noise.
No flapping. Well, there's no zippers.
Oh, that's huge.
Everyth's all Velcro. It's designed. Mario knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
He's, he spends a lot of time in these things. And we put a diesel heater in it. We have the MSA drawers in it. We have a drop slide with a National Luna Weekender 50 fridge. We really like that fridge because we have the ability to make ice. And
margaritas.
Yeah, margaritas without ice are really, really uncivilized. And that's not overlanding. That's called car camping. So the diesel heater is great. We finally kind of got that thing figured out. And, we even use that thing down in Baja. It has the ability to smoke you out or the ability to kind of keep you warm. And in terms of use of space, that bed also articulates up. So when you're in the camper, you not only do you have about 3 feet at the end of the bed, since the bed does go over the cab of the truck quite a bit. You can then push that bed up as on struts. Again, the bed is also 30 millimeter foam core insulated material. So you're not sleeping on a cold surface. but then you get the full use of the space inside. You don't have to, make your bed every day. You leave your bedding in there. There's enough space.
So if you got to hunker down in bad weather, you can do it.
Yeah, you can hang out in there. And, we've put some kept the interior very simple. You have to respect the payload capacity of a vehicle. And I think a lot of overlanders they throw more and more and more and more and more.
They never take it away.
And more. Yeah. And more.
Yeah.
This is really modular for us. So, we have a Lifesaver jerry can for water. It's very light. Also, we do a lot of travel overseas. Maybe we'll take this vehicle on the Silk Road. So the ability to have water filtration, pressurized water, and water storage in one unit was huge. And those alley boxes are great because they're just so light. We can leave them outside. They're waterproof. So then we get that interior space. If we have to hunker down and it's bad weather, we can put all that stuff outside and get that space.
And you don't have much on top. I think you've got some Max Tracks and
Max Tracks are on the side. And we just have an Overland solar 160 watt panel.
Okay. And does that seem to run everything that you need it to?
We have a 170 amp hour lithium battery.
Oh, that's huge.
It's massive. It's like what you would put in an RV, essentially. For those that don't know, lithium has 100% state of charge. So there's actually 170 usable amp hours roughly in that battery. And I'm sure the few bottom ones are a bit not there, but as compared to an AGM battery, this is like almost 3 or 4 lead acid batteries.
Impressive technology.
In like 50 pounds or something. Yeah. So yeah, the solar panel's there, but I have to worry about that like a week into camping. So,
well, there's a couple other campers on the market now. There's the new one from 5010. The one thing I liked about that was it was really big on the inside.
Huge.
Because of the way it overhangs the back of the vehicle.
Great use of space.
Yeah, you have to use the flatbed system that they provide as well. And it does end up getting very expensive, like nearly the price of the vehicle by the time you get it all done.
More than the Sport that you're talking about.
Right. If you want the fully built out interior, but they do a great job with that. I think Goose Gear is the one.
Goose Gear is the US distributor for that.
Bringing those in. I really did like the big open space on the inside of that. And then there's a couple others on the market. There's the P-Core from which is
Australia. More of a canopy style.
It is. It's definitely not a camper. It looks great. I mean, it looks really, really good.
If I wanted a utilitarian setup, with that flatbed, you'd really gain a lot of usability from the truck and the ability to take that canopy on and off so easily. They've really designed that well. And I want to say it integrates water. Yeah. And they're under 10 grand for the tray. And it's quite attractive.
I think it looks really good on the truck. It looks very purposeful. You just can't sleep in it. You still have to sleep in a roof.
So have to have a tent or something like that. Go Fast does make something for it too. They're a great option. The thing I like with them is they're really light. They're great for somebody that wants something maybe a step above a roof tent. If you have no ambitions of making your little sailboat inside, I think that's also a really great option. And I'm sure most of the wedge camper people have one. I haven't seen anything from 4-wheel camper.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. It'll be cool when we start to see 4-wheel camper releasing models that fit in the Gladiator. Because with a 1,700 pound payload, they sell those things all day long for Tacomas.
Yeah, and this is such a better platform. You can just tell that it handles the weight better.
For sure.
My partner's dad has a new Ram 1500, and we were kind of sitting underneath and comparing his to mine. And there are truthfully a lot of shared components in the same rear brakes.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's great. I want to say it's the only vehicle that has rear discs. Does the Ranger have rear discs?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so does the Colorado.
Colorado does now too.
The Tacoma is the only one that doesn't. It still has drums in the back.
Yeah.
I think they had some reason for it that made no sense, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so what's next for the Gladiator? I mean, you've driven it down Baja. Where do you want to take it next? What do you next plan to modify on the vehicle?
We're definitely looking at, Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alaska this summer. If work allows it. We're lucky that we're able to travel as much as we are, but we have to kind of respect that too. We do have a business to run. So hopefully that's the next big trip. I mean, we're always doing weekend stuff. We're going to intend to hit some more stuff in Arizona and probably go back down to Baja in March, weather's just so perfect there. It eventually, even though I built this, I built my dream Land Cruiser. Diesel, has all the secondary fuel tanks, everything you could imagine, like completely mechanically injected and everything. It's also one of our show trucks. And I don't know. I don't know if that's the vehicle I would drive around the world anymore. We're starting to kind of plan the Silk Road idea maybe for 2021. And I think it would be hard to not take the Gladiator. It's the fatigue on the driver is so much less, because there are those days when you don't have unlimited time, you do have to put in those 10, 12, 14-hour driving days, and the ability to turn on that radar cruise control and just kind of go. And I don't know. It's nice.
When you get to Mongolia, it'll only shut off with the camels.
Yeah. And it's quiet inside too. I mean, I know that's kind of where the Gladiator has received some negative marks, is interior cabin noise. But I think it really depends on how you have it set up. I put downloaded an app, a decibel meter, and it was right about 68 decibels, if I remember correctly. And that's kind of what they considered a conversation level. Definitely if you're doing 90 mile an hour with a headwind, which the truck will do, like we did across Texas from, coming back from Overland Expo. Yeah, it's a little bit louder, but
that's when I notice it, is once the speed gets up over legal limits, that's when it really gets a lot louder.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do.
But you're only doing that in America.
That's right. You'd never get going that fast.
No. So
unless you're on the Autobahn, maybe.
Yeah. So that's kind
of take it around the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
It'll be your first time around the Nürburgring. We'll be in a Gladiator. I love it.
Yeah. So big plans for the vehicle in terms of
where you want to take it.
I don't really know. I need to find a better solution for rear shocks. But other than that, I think what's great about the Gladiator is Jeep has done so much. I don't have to do an S-Pod because I already have the factory thing that's controlled through the screen. There's just so much I don't have to do. It has great lights. It rides well. The control arm angles are nearly flat lifted.
Yeah. And that keeps that roll center really low.
Yeah. We built this vehicle to travel, and that's our modification is travel.
Yeah. Hopefully all the money that you think you need to spend on modifications, because it doesn't need it, you can just spend on fuel now.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
Well, anything else going on, like any new gadgets you've been picking up recently?
I do have one. I used it extensively in Baja, and I now use it to light my nightly campfire inside my house. That was the wrong way to say that. They're not called campfires. Fireplace. I don't light fires inside of my house. It's this little Covea butane torch. It's called the Fire Z. I don't know. I think I bought it on Amazon. It was like $20 or something. And what I like is it uses little butane canisters, which are available
everywhere in the world. We actually moved all of our stuff over to Covea with the little butane canisters, because it's a very energy dense source. But with this, even on full blast, it doesn't seem to use much. And it is the best fire starter I've used. I've had the Snow Peak one. I still have the Snow Peak one, and actually used them side by side. Theirs is called the Giga Torch. But the problem with theirs, while it is more aesthetically pleasing and more unique, more of an experience to start that fire, which is what Snow Peak is about, you still have to have a separate lighter. Yeah. It's like kicking off an F4 Phantom when that thing,
and it's kind of scary because it's like, it starts and then it goes, where this thing has a little trigger. It's very, very ergonomic. I use it every night. I don't know. I don't know why more people don't carry something like that with them, because
it's all about fire when you're out camping.
Yeah. I mean, I get some people, if they're only doing this on a weekend, they want to be the Boy Scout and they want to start the perfect fire. Well, talk to me for a few hundred nights and you just want that sucker started.
You do.
So
that's right.
I don't know. What about you? What's your...
Well, I bought this GX 470 a couple of years ago, and I've just been daily driving it or taking it on.
Such great cars.
They are. And
form factor is perfect.
And I just haven't done anything to it yet. I mean, literally, it's still stock after a couple of years, which I think that's the longest I've gone with any vehicle ever. But I just now got everything on order. So
cool.
Almost everything is here at the office, and we're going to start building that truck up. Got a bunch of ARB goodies and some AEV wheels. And yeah, I think it'll look.
Yeah, because AEV does wheels for 6-lug Toyota now.
They do.
Are you doing anything in interior?
It's going to be a typical Scotty build. So it'll be super Sano, very understated, not a bunch of complex systems. But one thing I would like to do is look at like a Scheelman seat or a Recaro or something like that, because the factory, it's the one real negative in most Toyotas is the factory seats.
Yeah.
The factory leather is just garbage. So it definitely needs a seat upgrade. So that might be the one thing that I do on the interior. I was thinking about maybe taking out part of the rear seat and running the fridge back there to get the weight a little further forward.
That'd be cool. Do like a goose gear seat delete. We did like a goose gear seat delete in the Gladiator.
And you like that?
Yeah, that's Dak's actual seat now.
Nice.
We did the whatever they call it, the 3/4 deletes. We still have the one seat, and oh man, fantastic.
And do you put him in a harness when he's in the car?
He's almost 80 pounds and he's big and he moves around a lot. Greyhounds are very particular, little wonderful guys and girls, but I wish I could. It just, it would be the Greyhound scream of death.
Yeah.
You know, the moment he like got himself tangled and, you know,
felt he was locked down.
You know, we just drive like we have an infant in the car going home from
he's your baby.
ER.
Baby. Well, and speaking of that, tell us a little bit more about what people can do either to help support Greyhound rescues or to get their own Greyhound.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've talked about this before, but huge Greyhound guy, absolutely changed my life. You know, look at your local Greyhound adoption club. They're all usually volunteer run. You know, these dogs don't have the best life usually. You know, they come from the track. They're not, I don't want to say that they're abused, but they're treated like a commodity.
Yeah, they don't feel like part of the family.
Yeah. And man, they're so sweet.
He is such a sweet dog. Amazing.
And this guy, we had him for a month and took him down Baja. And now this is his second trip and going in the second year we've had him. Doesn't bark. They're great. There's a great community on Instagram surrounding these dogs. If you want to look at, you know, I always say hashtag Greyhound, hashtag adopt a Greyhound. Take a look at them. They're wonderful little creatures.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks for sharing that, Matt. And thanks for telling us all about your Gladiator. I think it's going to be really exciting to see this vehicle come to market in more numbers and see how people start to personalize them, see the integrated camper systems that are going to come out. I think it's going to be very cool to see how this car develops over the years.
Yeah. The fact that in 2020, we have soon to be available turbo diesel, but a turbo diesel manual solid axle pickup truck that you can take the doors and roof off.
Yeah. It's
like, how is that not cool? Like, why would you want to drive I don't know,
whatever,
anything else? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Life is fun. Have fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thank you all for listening. And remember, it's all about the experience. Spend less on your vehicle than you do on your trips. And we will talk to you next time.
Take care, guys.